All right. Okay. So today, what I'll be doing will be a little bit different. I figured how I should structure my videos should be most days of sharing about concepts, sharing about how to do this, what is this when it comes to psychology, and one day of the week I'll be sharing a little bit about myself. Maybe the things that I'm thinking, maybe it can be stories from the past, the what was like to be a police officer, just things about myself that makes me more personable, I guess, instead of just being a robot sharing all this psychology, teaching you how to manipulate people. I mean, I enjoy sharing all those things. I enjoy thinking about all these things. And you can say that to a certain extent, the things, if let's say quantifiably, all of my thoughts is described and plot onto a pie chart, and thoughts involving psychology of okay, what is logic, what is thinking, why do people think this way, how do people process all these things, makes up more than 60% of my thoughts. So I mean that's just me as a person. But anyway, what I think of, or rather what I thought of sharing today, perhaps for a start, could be something that is rather recent. So very recently, I I made a decision to move on from being a full-time financial advisor while doing my part-time studies in finance for a bachelor's in finance. And I decided to, for the next semester, or rather the current semester that I'm on, I choose to leave my job as a financial advisor, even though you can say that the financial advisor is more of a freelance basis. So regardless, I will still be able to control my time. But I choose to leave it and put more time into studies. But I know myself, I don't study. I'm a terrible student. But I want to focus a little bit more time, or rather I want to start building upon a channel for me to be able to share my knowledge, be it regardless of how useful it is, to the world. And I think part of why I want to do that, or rather what drives me to do that, is the constant nagging from my subconscious. And I think that to a certain extent most people will be able to understand this, because I think that's what drives our life to a certain extent. It's like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? These are impulses from the feelings. So your gut feeling is telling you, okay, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. And you can say that to some people, they would see this as the a vision or a direction in life that most people, or not most people, I would say that there are people out there, I'm unable to quantify the number in the population, but there are going to be people who fumble through life thinking, okay, what is my purpose in life? What should be my contribution? And I think that for me, I'm unlucky. I'm lucky and unlucky at the same time that I am able to extract what I think my purpose is from my subconscious. And it's also another way to think about it is that I'm able to articulate from the feeling and the sensation that we get into words and conscious understanding that what I need to do is to share about psychology. Mainly because I, to a certain extent, subjectively feel, and this can be hubris, this can be presumptuousness, this can be arrogance, but I do think that I am lucky enough to understand and have a easier time grasping concepts of psychology. And not only that, I enjoy doing it. So it's not in the sense of how I view finance. Because it's not that I'm not interested in finance and I did it because I'm obligated to, but I did finance from a very rational point of view. I am good with numbers. I see how one thing affect another. And because of that, I'm able to function in finance from a numbers perspective relatively well. And I'm able to use psychology, so that helps me in negotiation. So when it comes to applying finance, be it in studies or at a workplace, the numbers never really bothered me. Numbers and details don't bog me down in the same way that I think bogs some people. So they'll look at a sheet, maybe a contract, then they'll be like, okay, there's too much words, my mind is starting to shut down. They look at tables of numbers, and then they'll be like, okay, how do I even start addressing all of this? I don't want to address all of this, but I don't face the same problem. But I do not have the same amount of attachment as I do with psychology. But of course, for me to come to this decision of, okay, I want to in some sense to simplify, right, to oversimplify the situation. I want to quit my job and I want to start sharing knowledge on psychology to people. In some sense, you can say that is not a very sensible thing. That sounds absolutely crazy, and I 100% agree with you. But then again, the question is like, oh, if let's say you agree with me, then like, why do you do it? Right? If you consciously know that something is insane and you still choose to do it, doesn't that make you insane? Maybe, to a certain extent. You have a good point. Or rather, I imagine that you have a good point if you have that point. So, because one of the few issues that you can see that makes all this arrangement crazy is from the perspective of money. The reason why I say that this is something that's very recent, not because, well, the decision that I make is rather recent. Like I said, this happens in this semester. It's also recent because of one of the thoughts that popped into my head in the near history. And it's this idea of we consciously assume any sort of promotion, and because promotion, what we see is not promotion in the sense of increased responsibility. We see it from the perspective of, wow, you're going to have more money to be objectively good. One of the recent realization, and no, I'm not the first person to come to this epiphany. I think that there probably have been many people who's been trying to scream off the top of their lungs, trying to convince people that there is this potential point of view, but most people just don't. So does it make those people, or does it make me who have a different views or a divergent view when it comes to money any more special or any more valuable? No, I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, everybody should live the life that they think, or not they think, they should live the life that they want. But then the important thing is that it's so important for us to actually think through what is it that we want in life, and using as logical of a process as possible, because it's only through logic that we start to peel away the assumptions that we have in life. And one of the assumptions that I thought of that entered my head is money really that valuable? Then, like, okay, what do you mean that money is money that valuable? In some sense, you can say that, and this is not a new view, but if you think about it enough, you'll be able to understand that money is arbitrary. It's something that holds a equivalent value. It's a piece of paper that holds a emotional value, and this emotional value have to be agreed upon, that can be exchanged for something else. And you can say that because this value is quantifiable in numbers, so it's not deviating, it's not on the principle of trading, right? Where if I have a piece of rock, you have an egg, and then I want to exchange this piece of rock for your egg, maybe you can say that this piece of rock is worth 4 eggs. But if I go to a next person and say that, like, okay, now I actually want to use my rock to buy a chair, then how many rocks is your chair worth? So from a subjective one-to-one interaction, you can say money being quantified by numbers makes it more stable to a certain extent. To a certain extent, because you can say that, well, market movement, forex, still affects exchange rate, and you can say that because that affecting exchange rate does affect the things that you can trade. So we are still using the same example, but just more specific, right? We are not using a vague, oh, this is worth 3 stones. We're just saying that, okay, now this is worth this amount of money. I know this is worth this amount of money yesterday, but today is this. But that's not the important part. The important part is, for me, I think that by default, society-wise, we chase money so instinctively that we do not stop to think, why are we doing it? It is not a new view that there is this archetypical life cycle, which is you're born, you grow up, you go to school, you get educated, you get a job, and then you work till you are 60 plus, however long, when it comes to your pension system that starts paying you out money, then you start retiring. And then maybe you can say that, oh, now that you've retired, you no longer have the obligation of work, then now I get to enjoy my life. So from this cycle alone, I think most people will agree that there's a life that doesn't have a lot of meaning. Because you can say that there are certain things that you can only enjoy when you're younger. So when you're older, you won't have as much mobility. It's difficult for you to walk. It's difficult for you to have road trips. You might have medical conditions. You might not be able to do this. You might be at a certain risk. You probably wouldn't be able to ride a roller coaster when you're 70 plus without the fear, or not the fear, without the probability of dying to heart attack. Not to say that young people cannot ride roller coaster and die from heart attack. I'm just saying that probability, definitely in terms of comparison, what is more likely is much more likely for 70 plus year old person to die from heart attack from a roller coaster than somebody who is in their 20s. But from this point of view, it doesn't necessarily mean that, well, if let's say that's the case, then I'm gonna spend all my life on instant gratification. I'm just going to choose not to work a day in my life. I'm just going to be free. breathe free, do anything that I want, never worry about the future, live every day as if it's my last. Again, I take the standpoint of everybody should live the life that they want. With the caveat that, of course, you're not a nuisance to other people, right? So, for example, if let's say, Elon said that, oh, we should be able to live the life that we want. And I love being a serial killer, so I'm just gonna go around killing other people. No. You cannot live the life that you want, being a nuisance to other people. So, you mean that I can't be a serial killer? Yeah, probably not. Now, like, what if I still want to be a serial killer? Then I think that objectively, as selfish as it is for the whole of other population, I think that, you should be deleted. So, I mean, that aside, most people's aspirations are not as, in some ways, disruptive as the example of serial killer. You can say that, well, what about those people who earns insane amount of money? They have so much money that it devalues the money that we have. And those people continue to earn the money and they continue to not redistribute the wealth to the general population. What about that? In that sense, I think that should they redistribute their wealth? No. Because from my understanding and from my experience as a financial advisor, most people don't know shit about managing finance. If you give them, and I agree with this view, this is not my individual view, this is a view from somebody else, but if you give people who don't know how to manage money more money, you might potentially be doing them a disfavor. So, if somebody is addicted to alcohol or any other form of addiction, and the only reason, and let's say that their addiction drives them to poverty, they are dirt poor, they have no money whatsoever, and they are vagabond, so they are even homeless. By you giving more money to this person only fits into their addiction, because what you think that this person would do, because you being in somebody from your circumstances, you don't have the same mental trauma as this person, you don't have the same worries, you don't have the same level of dignity, you don't have the same level of tolerance when it comes to hardship and judgment from other people. You would assume that, well, if this person just have more money, this person is going to get their life together. Very possible. It is very possible for people to not have enough who wants to actually actively make a change in their life. But it is also more likely, from my understanding of the human animal, to be doing things in terms of momentum. So if all the while what I have been doing is that I've been squandering my money on drinking, you give me money only fits into my temptation. Let's say I get the money from you, I may not immediately go out to buy a drink, but it will continue to fit into my temptation. And once I give in to said temptation, then, well, you make it worse, because you can say that, well, with the money, I might not have another opportunity like this again to drink, so I'm gonna drink double, 3 times the amount that I normally drink to celebrate, to so-called, what's the idiom, like cook when the iron is hot or something like this. Something about reaping when the environment is suitable. So, in this example, you can say that, well, money is not the real solution. But it still comes back to my initial view of what is the value of money, and we have been we instinctively think of money as the pinnacle of our life. I come to this realization, and I think I briefly thought about this example, is if, let's say now you're at a family gathering, and you come to find out that one of your distance relative got a promotion in their job. So, now they became a manager. In your heart, let's say you are competing, you're a rival to a certain extent, you might feel a little bit of envy, a little bit of jealousy. But that envy and jealousy is basically because you view it as this person have gotten significant value. You might not consciously understand that the reason why you view the value is because you assume that from a managerial perspective they're going to earn more money, and because of more money that means more purchasing power. More purchasing power means more freedom. I think maybe if you stop to think about it, you'll realize that, but most people, they don't really try to analyze their thought to that extent. You just see, feel, like, see the person, know that the person is becoming a manager, and then instinctively your heart, maybe you feel envy. If not, you feel like, wow, that's so great for this person. But have you ever stopped to think, what does it mean when it comes for a promotion? What it means to be promoted? To get a promotion means more responsibilities. And more responsibilities, to a certain extent, means less freedom. You have more money. You have more money in your paycheck, but you might have to work longer hours. You might have to do duties that an employee, a normal employee, lower than you, does not need to do, because as manager, it is your responsibility. You have to ensure that this particular project or whatever things that you have to do continues to work well. That's what you're being compensated with. And because you're spending more time, it means that you have less time for your family members. And let's say you continue to get promoted in your occupation, right? You are the lucky ones who get to enjoy continuous career growth. Instead of being a manager, you've been promoted, and then now you are like a CEO. Wow. If let's say now, I told you that, okay, just by a snap of your finger, you're gonna be a CEO. Most people will feel a certain sense of pride, will feel a certain sense of joy, but very unlikely what they'll feel is dread. And I'm not a CEO. I'm not going to say that this is objectively how CEOs are going to feel. But what I can infer is that they are going. What are the information that we can know about CEOs? They don't spend money like people that comes from wealthy parents. They don't spend money sitting on a yacht, relaxing on life, and then gonna be like, wow, life is so great. No, they are stressing constantly because they have so much responsibilities. They make the wrong move, the company is gonna collapse. It's gonna affect multiple jobs. They probably don't. If let's say somebody's in the position of CEO, they have the personality type that is less likely for them to be more people oriented. So you can say that, well, if people lose their job, it doesn't really matter. Not for all CEOs. Generally, I'm saying that what personality type tends to enjoy the climb and able to tolerate the climb up to a CEO position tends to be people who are goal oriented, and you can say that they are more logical, so they are less likely to care about feelings and how things affect other people. And you can say that because this is built into competition, right? You have to be very competitive to become a CEO. Nobody is going to give you the title out of kindness. You have to a certain extent, fight for it. So you have to work extremely long hours. And to a certain extent, you can say that there's also jobs that require you to work really long hours, right? What about investment banking? Investment banking, for most people who works 9 to 5, if I'm not wrong, investment banking basically have to work upwards of 15 hours a day. They probably wouldn't have enough sleep, but they're compensated really well for it. You have the money. So CEO, you can say that, well, that's an extreme example. of that. You work really long hours and you have to keep working. It's not that like, well, I love working for so long, so I'm just going to continue working and I don't care about my kids. You have to continue working because one thing, responsibility. Another thing is that it's a race. You stop running, they are going to be younger, more ambitious, less caring of their personal life, who would be happy to replace you. So you have to be running as fast as possible so that people who wants to replace you do not catch up with you. And that's your constant stress. Like, okay, I'm going to be replaced if I screw up any decision making, and if I screw up and I lose my position as a CEO, it might affect my cash flow. At that position, when they have such a huge amount of money, you can say that like, well, there's a lot of wealth managers, there's going to be a lot of financial planners that can come after you, and they can say that, oh, invest in this, invest in that, and then that's going to affect cash flow because you have to be constantly putting out money to pay for certain plans that can give you money in the future. And even in the thought process of itself, like, oh, okay, I have so much money that I don't know what to do with it, I'm going to pay into a plan that's going to give me more money in the future. You can ask yourself, the thing is, okay, it is important to plan for your future. You want to retire. It is important because like there are so many people who don't have enough money to retire. But if you are in the situation where you have more money than you can spend in your lifetime, so let's say you're a millionaire, multi-millionaire, and you're still investing money, you can say that, well, because I want to buy, not only do I want to secure my life, I want to secure my children's life. Very, very good point. But at some point you got to think, like, what's the meaning of having more money? So in the example of that CEO, because I want to, before I actually completely forget about that example, is that you work for so many hours and then you forgo all the time with your children. So now after you retired, you're like, okay, I've done my job. I'm like 70, 80 plus now because, well, maybe, you are so valuable that you cannot be replaced, and your expertise requires you to work until you're 70, 80 years old, and provided that you are not those hyper competitive person, that what gives them value in life and what makes them happy is work, and somebody do convince you to retire and then you actually retire, now you don't really know your kids, you don't really know your wife, right? And then what you have is that you're sitting in your beautiful mansion, you have 5 other mansions, you have a fleet of sports car, you have everything, every materialistic thing that people could ever want in their life. Does that make you happy? And this vision of being super wealthy and successful and having every materialistic thing that I want in life, things that people say that like we should strive for, a sports car, a nice house, and all those other things that you can say that there's gonna be so many people looking at you with envy. You're gonna be so well respected. There are gonna be people who look up to you and like, I want to be like that guy. You can say that with that much money, you're gonna leave your mark down on history. People are gonna write articles about you. People are gonna know your name. You're not gonna be a random stranger who live and pass away with the world not noticing, right? Would that make you happy? Would that make me happy? I put myself in that situation where let's say I have 2 kids. I have a daughter. Let's say right now I'm 80 plus. Well, I'll probably have some illnesses here and there. Not sure what illnesses that I'm gonna have, but it's likelihood by balance of probability, will I want to be a perfectly healthy 80 plus year old grandpa, not in the grandpa sense of like, kids of my kids, but more of like an elderly person. Do I want to be a 80 plus elderly man with perfect health? Who wouldn't? But balance of probability, you're probably gonna have like some old people illnesses, right? Like high blood pressure, it's very common. Maybe diabetes, hopefully not a form of cancer or recovering from a form of cancer. But health is a problem. I have made all the achievements that I want in life. If I open my bank account, the number is so large that it's meaningless to me. If I go out and eat fine dining every single meal, and I eat more than 3 meals a day, and I go on holiday every other day, no matter how I spend my money, I won't be able to finish spending the money. But of course, I don't have a close relationship with my son and my daughter because I've been working all my life. Maybe I could be a little bit more harsh on them. If I'm not absent, I might be a little bit more harsh. Growing up, they might be asking me, daddy, do this with me, play with me. They're like, I don't have time for this. I'll play with you for another time. Or all the other things. So I'm not close with them. And my wife, again, she views me as distant and neglecting, and that she has to go through the difficulty of raising our children alone. Yes, I can buy her all the handbags in the world, but we have so much money that I can buy her whatever she wants, but materialistic things just don't feel the same to her anymore, to me, to my children. My children probably are brats because they grew up that rich. In that situation where you can say that I potentially have earned and achieved the dream that most people assume that we want, which is get filthy rich, would I be happy? When I put myself in that hypothetical situation, sitting at the sofa, sitting on my sofa, my super expensive sofa, on a Saturday afternoon, contemplating about life, the only conclusion that I can get, or rather the emotion that I feel, is dread. It's like, how did my life get so wrong? How did I waste my life away chasing money, thinking that money is going to make me happy? So, but I want people to understand to a certain extent, this is because my personality is as such. And I think that there are people with personalities that really is suited for that life. Because what gives them purpose and meaning is to climb the corporate ladder and to be better than other people. Not to say that, like, so you mean that you don't want to be better than other people? Like, you think that makes you a better person? No, that's not the point. The point is that by being better than other people, by earning more than them, by having a better status, doesn't give me the same emotional joy as people with a subset of personalities that is suited for that would give them that sense of accomplishment. So, because I understand that there are, at the very least, okay, if you buy into the theory of Myers-Briggs, you buy into the theories of Enneagram and all the other personality theories, you know that, okay, bare minimum, there's at least maybe around 16. Let's assume that it's 16. Who's to say that Myers-Briggs, the person who come up with Myers-Briggs theory, is correct? And that there's not more, there is not, my grammar, man. There aren't more personalities beyond 16. And who's to say that they are not wrong? They are wrong. Who's to say that they are not incorrect to assume that there are less? To assume that... I need to phrase this better. Who's to say that there aren't more than 16 personalities? Or there are in actuality less than 16 personalities? They could be exaggerating, the person who come out with Myers-Briggs. So they could be artificially inflating. honestly speaking, if I'm interacting with people, I only worry about 4 subset of personalities. That's all. I split 16 personality into 4. No matter how it cuts it, so long as you fit into these 4, I deal with you the exact same way. That's how I work, right? But again, my point that I'm trying to get at is that there's so many different type of personalities, and I think each personalities have their own individual joys in life that they should pursue. So it means to say that everybody's path is different, but because of how we view money, everybody just instinctively assume that we should do the same path. We should climb the corporate ladder. We should get our own business. We should get filthy rich. Not because we want the paper money, but because of what we think money can exchange for. That's the whole purpose of money, right? Like, the paper doesn't give you any value. The paper gives value to people who should climb the corporate ladder, because money to them is a high score. And you can say that it's healthier to think of money as a high score than to think of money as an exchange ticket for whatever we want. Because very often, you can think that to a certain extent, you do not have to exchange money for the things that you want, just get the things that you want. It's not in all cases, right? If let's say what you want is a Lamborghini, you are not going to like, I want to exchange my heartfelt desires for a Lamborghini, please. No, the person will say that, like, I would rather take money. But again, if what you want is materialistic item, it doesn't make you lesser of a person than compared to somebody who wish to have meaning in their life. Wishing to have meaning in your life can also be said to be completely useless. How do I quantify meaning? What's so important, right? So it depends on your value system. There's no one right or wrong value system. What I'm trying to get at is that the assumption of money being the be all and all is wrong. And if you are somebody, let's say for example you are a family guy, and you are somebody who truly cares about people, and that's what makes you happy, that gives you value, you think that you want to climb to a point of being a manager. Yes, you can say that most people are going to give you respect, but again, you're going to have less time with your wife, with your children. Do you want that? And so this is the realization that I come with money, right? That I come to when it comes to money. And with that realization, I bring into consciousness something that I always instinctively feel about, but it's embedded in my subconscious mind. And that is, money never have much value to me. That doesn't mean that, like, if let's say that's the case, can you give me your bank account number so that, like, you can transfer all of your money to me? No, that doesn't mean that. Because at the end of the day, you can say that, well, there's a price for living. You can say that that's the curse of being a human being, is that we are ironically the only human being, the only animal in the world that pays to live on Earth. The birds, all the other animals live for free. Is that true? Cows work hard to earn money for humans. They don't live free. Well, wild animals do at the very least. If you are at any point of time close to a human being, then you kind of have to work. Well, dogs and cats don't really work. Oh, that's kind of true. Dogs and cats don't really work. Maybe they work by giving us affection. Who knows? But the idea is that bills still have to get paid. But I would say that the reason why I made the decision of leaving my job and then starting to share knowledge on YouTube, or share knowledge online, I want to put it in a way, is because I asked myself, okay, if that life doesn't give you happiness, right now, if money is not a concern, or rather you have earned all the money that you wanted already, and you are lucky enough to do it by the age of 60 plus. Which, by the way, do you know what most people that I interact with as a financial advisor, do you know what they want? If they're younger, they say that they want to retire early. And why is it that people want to retire early? Most people, my clients don't understand this. They only know that I want to retire early. They're unable to articulate to me like why they want to retire early. It is also not my job to be a therapist gonna be like, let's dig deeper. Why do you think that's so important to you? Sometimes I do it for them, sometimes I don't. Because I think that people should make decisions being fully conscious of why they make a decision instead of just based on assumptions. But most people want to retire early because they want to do something else with their life. They want to start a farm. Well, not most Singaporeans. Singaporeans don't really like to do manual labor. But you can say that, the reason why they want money is so that they can purchase the freedom to do something else. Freedom in the sense is saying that, okay, I want to have the ideal lifestyle while still doing the things that I want. That is the ultimate goal. So when I ask myself the question, if right now money is not an issue, and we live in a world where there's no money doesn't exist, everybody's needs are met, and you get to live your life however you want, what will I do? And the answer is that I will spend my life studying, understanding psychology, maybe in isolation, maybe every now and then observing people from a public perspective, and writing it down and sharing it with the world. That's what I will do if money is not an issue. And then that's when my subconscious asks, can you do that right now? And the answer is, can you do that? The answer is yes, but with other consideration in mind. Every single decision that we make have their own individual limitations. If nothing else, there is opportunity cost. Whenever we make a decision, not only must we think in sense of what can I stand to gain from it, we must also consider what is the price that we pay. And the price that I will pay if I choose to pursue this path is that I must understand that, well, you might not earn a lot of money. Hey, but there are people who make videos online earning huge amount of money. So what if the channel becomes so successful, you become so successful as a public figure, as an influencer, that you earn all this money? To me, I won't even say that that's the best case scenario, because with money there comes other worries. If let's say I become more successful in the sense of, well, people actually like what I share, people actually find what I share useful, and I get richer because of that, will it inflate my lifestyle? Maybe I have to spend more, I have to invest more, then I worry about all the other things in life other than psychology. So you can say that sometimes life tries to trick you, right? They're like, you know what? I'm going to give you the illusion of you get to have the cake and you get to eat it as well. I'm gonna allow you to pursue your life chasing psychology, and I'm gonna give you money for it. And then what happens? The human desire comes out. I want to buy this, I want to buy this, I want to own this, I want to own 3 lands. So instead of my time being focused on psychology, now I need to focus on managing something else as well. So I think that there will be different challenges and there will be different worries at that point of time, if that point of time happens. So I think of it as the scenario of, okay, that's the wealthy scenario. What about the scenario where you barely breaks even. What about the scenario that you earn lesser than the average earnings of Singapore citizens? Or be it provided, let's say, why not I migrate? Well, what if you're earning lesser than the average in that place? So your purchasing power is significantly lower. And of course, by relation, your social standing, you can say that it's also been seen lower. If you compare somebody who earns 3,000 a month and somebody who earns 10,000 a month, you can immediately say that, well, we instinctively give more respect to the person who earns 10,000 a month. Why? Because we instinctively think and value money as the be all and all. Goes back to my initial point. So I asked myself, if you're only earning 3,000 plus a month, so you're not gonna have a luxurious life. You might even have a life that is rougher. Would you want that? Would you be okay with that? And I thought and I reflect to myself, projecting into the future where now I'm in, because assuming that I'm single, I get a 2-room housing flat from the government, provided that I'm able to pay for it with my menial amount of salary. And now I'm alone in complete silence on a Saturday afternoon, and I think to myself, and by then, if I open the computer, I probably have more than 1,000 videos, assuming that I make and upload every single day. If I'm able to achieve, well, if let's say I'm really, really old by that time, if I'm 50, 60 plus, then yeah, even if I were to upload really slowly at 50% of the pace right now, I will probably have that much video. Hopefully they are still useful to a certain extent, because how much can I really squeeze out of psychology? I have no idea, right? At the current moment, I'm like squeezed and water comes out because the fruit is fresh. But at that point of time, would I feel like my life is well lived? If I open up social media, if it's still Instagram, if it's still whatever that we understand right now, provided it's not new social media, let's say it's a new social media, and I see all my peers being more wealthy, showing pictures of their children growing up, and me sitting there all alone, would I be happy? And the strange answer is yes. If I die in that timeline, I will feel like I lived the life that I wanted to live. Which is, I really did live the life for psychology. And I really did leave behind the knowledge that was given to me from my subconscious connection to psychology. I really do feel that in that situation, I live a life that I'm happy with. And it's because of this reason that I feel like this path that I'm going on is worth it. But it goes back to the idea of, if I have to explain to people all of these things, it will sound insane. And maybe right now it still sounds insane. But there's also other things that I'm giving up. It is not just on purely, it's not just money. Because for me, as a very rational person, if I know that the path that I'm walking right now is towards lesser than average, do you think that I want to irresponsibly drag a girl along with me in that life? Which is why in that future version of me, I'm sitting alone in my two bedroom flat. Because if I know that this is the path that I'm going on and it is going to be so rough, I would rather, if I truly genuinely see a girl and I really think that, wow, I really, really like you, my honest thinking is that because I like you so much, I will much rather you go out and marry somebody who's going to give you a more stable life. Be it marry that version of rich CEO or rich investment banker that's going to give you everything that you want, all the handbags that you want, and you can say that, give you the pride when you go out. You don't have to ever make excuses for your significant other. You can brag. You can freely brag about the significant other that you have. They're like, oh, he's having a good career on this thing. He just got promoted. You can have the ease of mind to reproduce and not worry about, can we afford this? And in some sense, give you the comfort and stability that you deserve. I would much rather, for the people that I really do care about and like, for them to follow that path, regardless of how much I like them. They can be drop dead gorgeous. They could like me, they could be infatuated with me, but I'll still think, and the feeling can be mutual. So they're infatuated with me, that clearly I'm infatuated with them. I'm not using this as an example of like, well, they're infatuated with me, but I don't feel anything. That's a meaningless discussion to have. I'm saying that I care for them, they care for me, I like them, they like me. But in that situation, I would still rather, I think that you should date somebody who's more stable in life. Because if you were to date me, it is a very, very, very big possibility that we're going to suffer. And you can even say that from a very selfish perspective is that me knowing the level of sense of responsibility that I have, if I were to land a girl, I might not be able to commit to my path. I might tell myself that, okay, it's very irresponsible for you to do this. Use your knowledge to go be an investment banker. We know you care nothing about free time. We know that you have no worries when it comes to work. And we know that if you want to do anything, you have the computation power and you have the capability, you have the sweet talking ability to do anything that you want. And because of what this girl deserves is the very best and what is very natural, and you can say that it's not even considered a price to pay because it is so instinctual and so self-explanatory for me to freely surrender my life to purchase the life that my wife, my children deserve, that I'm going to take that path. So, for the first perspective is that, well, I want you to be happy so that, please be with the guy that you want. But now the second perspective is that now I'm going to be a little bit selfish. Because if you are with me, I'm afraid that I'm not going to be selfish enough to do the things that I want. I mean, the only exception that I see in this case is that I find a significant other that values the thing that I value at the same level that I value, which I'm going to say is very difficult, because psychology to me truly is something that's very important to me. It is so integral. It is such an important aspect of my life that I can't imagine a situation where it doesn't exist. And I think that it's impossible for psychology not to exist in whatever pathway that I walk in my life. If I'm an investment banker, I'm going to use psychology. If I'm a CEO, I'm going to use psychology. The only difference is, would I be using psychology for the reasons that I think that I should? For the greater good. Not because I'm an empathetic person, but because I think that to misuse psychology for selfish gains, in some sense, is desecrating the thing that I feel like is sacred. So, in some sense, this is the thing that I think about, right? Not only do I think about, okay, this is where I'm taking this decision that sounds crazy, that's completely crazy, but these are my consideration as well. Not only do I know that, okay, what is the thing that I want, I know that what's the thing that I give up. And at the end of the day is, well, I think that makes me happy. Well, what if you're able to live a comfortable enough living when it comes to that life of sharing about psychology, which honestly speaking, best case scenario for me when it comes to me sharing about psychology is to build a community of people who wants to know more and is able to constantly grow together with me. Because I know that my way of sharing is all over the place, because I have to translate how things work in my mind into a way that people can understand. And I understand by nature I'm already a very weird person. So I have to put the words into, well, we understand things as feelings, right? So I need to translate the feelings into words that I understand, and I need to translate the words into things that people will understand in the way that people will understand, into an example that people can quantify and sort of see, in order for me to share all these things. So ideally there's still room to grow. So it still goes back to the idea of best case scenario is that I build a community of people that's going to continue to grow with me. Whereas while I share my knowledge or whatever knowledge that I have on psychology, where they give me feedback of like, I don't really understand this, can you explain this in more detail? Then they give me the idea of like, oh, okay, maybe I explaining it in this way is like better. That is the best case scenario. The best case scenario in this situation is not the situation where I get filthy rich, because I also understand that the consideration of, if you really get super popular and you get super wealthy, even if you're a nice person, it creates a disconnect. If at any point of time I want to meet the community that grew with me, and hypothetically, if let's say now this community is millions large, how am I able to connect with individual one-on-one? It's gonna be very difficult. I might not even have the time, enough hours and time in the day to say hello on a one-to-one basis to every single person. So that's the challenges when, of course, if things get too big, right? But to me, at the end of the day, I always feel this as secondary. This all false, or rather, these all are negligible in the face of the ultimate goal, which is to share what I know. Even if it's rubbish. The idea is that even a broken clock is right twice a day. And with this principle, even if the thing that I intuit out and the things that I share, even if majority is garbage, let's say only 5% is useful information, then maybe my contribution to this world, my minute contribution to this world, is just that 5% that is useful. I always take the view of, again, people should live however they want. Should the thing that I share not be applicable to you, do not force yourself to use it, because these are things that work for me. It might not necessarily work for you, because again, for anybody who share anything when it comes to psychology or how to do a certain things, a businessman or a salesperson say that, okay, the sales process is this. What we generally forgo are things that are so subconscious in us that we are not even aware that we are doing it. For example, if let's say 3 magic question, I understand this part of the mirroring and sense of importance, the interaction process. I know the limitation when I teach all of this is that people would not have the same advantage that I have in the sense of body language reading and personality profiling. Because the part that I leave out and the part that takes longer to learn is that I look at somebody and instantly from a shift from this area, from the way that their eyebrow twitch, from the way that the top half of their face does not align with the bottom half of their face in terms of emotion, clues me into what they're actually thinking. And based on the word choice that they use, the things that they value, it clues me into what type of personality they are and how I should interact with them. Of course, these are the things that hopefully I get to teach effectively down the line. But the example, or rather the point that I want to make, is that there will be things that people teach that works well for them because of other factors. Even to a certain extent, the limitation of mirroring and sense of importance is that you have a bare minimum capability of carrying a normal conversation. Because you can say that for this to be useful to you, you must not be completely socially awkward and not be able to say a thing. And not be able to form a single sentence. So there is a requirement, and I wish that I will continue to work upon that. So to really make things as simple as possible, anybody who can pick this up, if I were to put this into an AI and just say do instruction A, B, C, D, E, and then the same effect will happen. I hope that that's where I'll go towards. But yeah, it still goes back to one thing: use the thing that is useful to you. Don't use the thing that is not useful to you. Keep in mind that I'm only human. I can be wrong. And me being human, you can say that it is very likely for me to be wrong more than 50% of the time. Because being wrong is what is the defining traits of being human. So anyway, this is a lot longer than most of my other videos. And again, the idea is that today we are not really learning anything. It's just me sharing my point of view when it comes to all of this. And of course, I understand that, well, people may have different point of view, or if you notice that there are things that I didn't really consider, that are like, hey, did you consider this thing? Do you consider this factor? And everything like this, then, well, I would really love to hear all of that. I really wish to have a discussion when it comes to this. And yeah, so do let me know your thoughts on this if you have any.